Welcome to Royal Secret. There are moments in history when silence says more than words ever could. And for Meghan Markle, that moment came under the dazzling lights of Manhattan, where ambition, royalty, and controversy collided in the most unexpected and chilling way. It was supposed to be a triumphant return, a powerful spotlight, a declaration of influence. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, stepping back into the arena of global prestige, not through royal protocol, but on her own terms. At the Time100 summit in New York, no less, a place reserved for visionaries, changemakers, and cultural icons. But what was meant to be a grand affirmation of her voice, her power, and her message, turned into a moment that's never being replayed across social media, newsrooms, and private conversations worldwide. A moment defined not by standing ovations or praise, but by silence. No applause, not even a courteous clap. The Duchess stood at the podium, her speech scripted and delivered with poised elegance. Her message: empowerment, equity, global connection, all themes that have become central to her personal brand. But when the final words left her lips and she looked out across the sea of influential faces, there was nothing, no sound. No applause, only an awkward, drawn-out hush that seemed to echo louder than any microphone ever could. And in that haunting pause, just seconds, but an eternity in public speaking, Meghan Markle, one of the most polarizing public figures of our time, was forced to confront something far more brutal than criticism: apathy. But how did it come to this? How did one of the most talked about women in the world go from commanding the global stage to being met with a wall of cold silence at one of America's most high-profile summits? Let's rewind, because this moment didn't appear out of nowhere. It was the product of years of royal tension, media battles, carefully crafted narratives, and a growing divide between what Meghan Markle projects and how the world perceives her. And on that stage in New York, all of it finally collided. After a period of relative quiet following her and Prince Harry's publicized split from the British royal family, Meghan had been slowly orchestrating her return to public life, not as a royal, but as a speaker, philanthropist, and businesswoman. The Time100 summit represented a strategic opportunity. It was more than a speaking engagement. It was a rebranding event. The guest list included CEOs, thought leaders, tech moguls, climate activists, and journalists. For Meghan, this wasn't just a stage, it was a platform to reclaim relevance. She arrived in New York with a flurry of media coverage, elegant outfit, perfect poise, and headlines speculating on what message she would deliver. The buzz was unmistakable. Cameras flashed, fans gathered, commentators speculated. Would she finally reveal her new philanthropic direction? Would she speak on women's rights, or the future of media, or her battle with the British press? What she delivered was a carefully written, emotionally pitched speech touching on women's empowerment, leadership, and the need for inclusive storytelling. These were safe, familiar themes for Meghan, aligned with her public persona. But as the speech came to an end, something unexpected happened. Nothing. No rousing cheer. No polite applause. Just silence. Some attendees shifted in their seats. A few exchanged confused glances. Meghan paused, perhaps waiting, expecting. The pause stretched out just a little too long. Then the host stepped into transition to the next segment. And just like that, the moment passed. But the damage had been done. Social media was quick to react. Clips of the awkward moment flooded TikTok and Instagram within hours. Threads on Twitter exploded, with hashtags like and trending. Some supporters rushed to her defense, claiming the audience simply didn't understand the speech had ended. Others suggested technical issues, but the dominant narrative was clear and brutal. Meghan Markle, once the subject of global obsession, had spoken in front of a live audience of influential elites and received nothing. And in the world of celebrity and power, silence isn't just awkward, it's dangerous. It signals disconnection, a failure to connect, a message that didn't land. Some critics went further, suggesting the silence reflected the growing fatigue with the Duchess's carefully curated public appearances. One commentator wrote, "You can only use the same buzzwords for so long before people stop listening." Another added, "She wants to be seen as a leader, but where is the real substance?" Even late-night hosts couldn't resist taking jabs. One joked, apparently Meghan Markle's speech was so powerful, it left everyone speechless, literally. In the next section, we'll dive into the roots of Meghan's decline in public favor. From her royal exit and the infamous Oprah interview to the Spotify and Netflix deals that made headlines but stirred backlash, we'll explore how the Duchess may have overplayed her hand, and how audiences have started to tune out. We'll also reveal insider whispers from the event, what palace sources are privately saying about the summit, and how Prince Harry responded behind closed doors. To truly understand how Meghan Markle found herself at the center of an awkward and spoken rejection, we need to rewind the clock to a time when she stood not on the fringes of celebrity, but in the core of the global elite. The world watched in fascination as an American actress stepped into the 1,000-year-old British monarchy. Meghan Markle became the Duchess of Sussex in a fairy-tale wedding watched by nearly 2 billion people. For a moment, she was the symbol of a modernized, inclusive monarchy, a woman of color, a divorcee, a self-made actress marrying into an ancient institution. But what began as a love story soon unraveled into a media war zone. The Oprah interview, a turning point. When Meghan and Prince Harry sat down with Oprah Winfrey in 2021, the interview was seismic. Allegations of racism within the royal family, mental health struggles, and accusations of institutional neglect shocked the world. For some, Meghan became a symbol of courage, someone daring to challenge the establishment. For others, she crossed a line. Royalists accused her of damaging the monarchy. British tabloids branded her a traitor. And a growing number of Americans began to ask the question, was this all about justice, or about revenge and control? Brand Meghan, the rise of the archetype. After the Oprah sit-down, Meghan seemed determined to control the narrative. She launched the Archetypes podcast with Spotify, signed a multi-million-dollar Netflix deal, and began appearing at high-profile events, championing women's issues, leadership, and personal growth. But the branding was aggressive, too aggressive for some. Everything became curated, controlled, carefully choreographed. The Duchess's words were polished, her appearances impeccably timed. And yet, something was missing: authenticity. As one media analyst put it, Meghan has become a brand first and a person second. And that's where the disconnect begins. The Time100 summit was meant to be a correction, a live moment of unfiltered Meghan. But it backfired, because when the audience saw her standing on stage, delivering lines that sounded like they were meant for a TED Talk, many were no longer moved. They were unmoved, not out of malice, but indifference. The danger of overexposure. In the age of digital celebrity, public figures walk a dangerous tightrope. Too much exposure without evolution, and the audience loses interest. And that's what may have happened here. Meghan's message hasn't changed in years. Empower women, rewrite narratives, challenge the system. But the repetition, without new depth or personal vulnerability, has turned even her fans into critics. A viral YouTube comment under the Time100 video said it best. "She's talking about changing the world, but I don't even know what she's changed lately, besides her wardrobe." Behind the scenes, was the summit team caught off guard? Sources connected to the Time100 summit have quietly revealed that there were concerns from the start. One production insider claimed that Meghan insisted on multiple rounds of revisions for her speech and demanded full control over the language and tone. She wanted it to be perfect, the source said. But perfect can also feel distant. Even Time editors, though respectful of Meghan's stature, were reportedly unsure if her speech would resonate. "We didn't see anything new," said one event planner. "There was no surprise, no fresh insight, just the same talking points we've heard for the last 3 years." The royal palace reacts, in silence. Across the Atlantic, Buckingham Palace has offered no formal comment on the Time100 moment. But royal insiders, those who once worked closely with Meghan and Harry, have not stayed quiet. A former royal aide told the Daily Mail, "This was always the concern. When you leave the firm, you lose the infrastructure that shapes your message. You're on your own." Meghan thought she could do better without it. But now the shine is wearing off. Others were more blunt. Meghan misunderstood her appeal, another insider told The Telegraph. It wasn't just her voice, it was the institution behind her. And now that's gone. Harry's private reaction, supportive or silent. There was no Prince Harry at the Time100 summit. His absence sparked speculation. Was it strategic, or was it telling? Sources close to the Sussexes insist Harry was supportive behind the scenes, watching a live feed from Montecito. But royal commentators believe his absence from such a pivotal moment reveals the cracks in their public front. Harry knows the room. He spent years reading the pulse of the public. He might have sensed this wasn't going to land, said royal biographer Angela Levin. And if Harry had concerns, did he voice them? Or did he, like the rest of us, watch in silence? It started with a whisper, a murmur, a glance exchanged in a silent ballroom. But now it's a roar. The media, once a double-edged sword Meghan Markle could wield with precision, has begun to turn. Headlines are no longer glowing. Reporters aren't lining up for exclusive interviews. And the once loyal public, they're watching with arms folded and eyebrows raised. What happened at the Time100 summit has triggered something larger, a full-blown global image crisis. Because when the applause died, it wasn't just the end of a speech. It was the end of a narrative. The moment the carefully polished image of Meghan Markle, inspirational speaker and feminist icon, started to crack. And now, the fallout is spiraling. The headlines, brutal, blunt, and unforgiving. Within 24 hours of the summit, mainstream media outlets from both sides of the Atlantic seized on the silence. But it wasn't just a simple recap, it was scathing. The New York Post ran the headline, Meghan Markle's message falls flat. Silence at Time100. The Daily Mail, never one to miss a jab, went further. Room full of elites ignore Duchess. No claps, no cheers, just awkward silence. Even Vanity Fair, once a friendly outlet to the Sussexes, asked, has Meghan lost her magic? But the most brutal critiques weren't in newspapers, they were online. YouTubers, TikTok creators, podcasters, and Twitter personalities wasted no time. Reaction videos broke down the footage frame by frame. Meghan's delivery, her expression when the applause didn't come, the host's anxious smile. Every movement was dissected. TikTok's most viral clip of the summit. Not a highlight, not an inspiring quote. It was the exact moment of silence, captioned, when the whole room goes mute, and she's still smiling. The video racked up 14 million views in 2 days. Public opinion polls, a shift in sentiment. But beyond the memes and media spins, there's something more damning, data. A flash YouGov poll conducted just 2 days after the summit asked a simple question. Do you believe Meghan Markle is still a relevant voice in global leadership? Only 23% of respondents in the US said yes. In the UK, that number dropped to 14%. It's a stunning collapse for someone who just a few years ago was named one of Time's most influential people and graced the cover of The Cut, Vogue, and Fortune. But it's more than just numbers. It's about trust. A growing number of former supporters are expressing frustration. Not anger, but disillusionment. The promises Meghan made, to lift women's voices, to shake the system, to rewrite the royal playbook, now feel, to many, like empty mantras. The authenticity problem. Journalists, media strategists, and even former royal staffers have identified a recurring theme behind Meghan's declining influence, a lack of emotional authenticity. One media analyst explained, her speeches sound like corporate mission statements. There's nothing raw, nothing new. People connect with vulnerability. Meghan connects with image, and therein lies the paradox. Meghan built her post-royal identity on being real, on breaking the mold, on speaking out against outdated institutions. But over time, the very brand she constructed to rebel against the establishment has begun to feel manufactured. A recent op-ed in The Guardian captured it sharply. When every word is pre-approved, and every moment curated for optics, even truth starts to sound rehearsed. How this compares to other royal PR disasters, make no mistake, public perception disasters are nothing new to royalty. Prince Andrew, King Charles during the Diana years. Even Queen Elizabeth faced widespread criticism after her initial silence following Princess Diana's death. But here's the difference. Those royals had institutions behind them. They had Buckingham Palace, crisis PR teams, media liaisons, and years of carefully preserved tradition to soften the blow. Meghan and Harry, by contrast, left that behind in 2020. And now, they're experiencing the downside of independence. No safety net, no palace spin, just raw public opinion, and it can be brutal. The internal fallout, trouble in Team Sussex. Behind the scenes, insiders say the Time100 silence has created tension within Meghan's tightly controlled circle. According to a leak published in Page 6, members of her PR team were blindsided by the reaction. They didn't anticipate the silence would go viral, one source revealed. There was an assumption that the audience would clap because it's Meghan. That assumption failed. There are even whispers of frustration between Meghan and her own strategists. She's asking the right questions now. Why didn't it land? Why didn't it connect? Said a source. But it may be too late. The audience has moved on. What about Archewell? Meghan's nonprofit, Archewell, was designed to be the foundation of her new legacy, a platform for change, built outside the constraints of royalty. But even Archewell is now facing scrutiny. Donations are reportedly down, engagement is low, and while it's released statements and partnered on causes, few can name a single concrete initiative from the past year that has made global headlines. That silence from the audience at Time100. It's a reflection of a deeper problem. Meghan's brand promises results, but people are starting to wonder, where are they? Can Meghan rebuild, or is this the beginning of the end? The big question now looming over Montecito, where Meghan and Harry reside, is this: can she come back from this? There are two schools of thought. One says yes, this is just a temporary stumble. Public memory is short. One raw, unscripted moment, one powerful action, and Meghan could reclaim her place on the world stage. The other says no, that this is the start of a slow decline. That the Time100 moment will be remembered as the day the applause stopped, both literally and metaphorically. That without the monarchy, without the mystery, Meghan is just another celebrity speaker in a world already drowning in them. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe.